The lawyer didn't even have time to open his folder. "She won't get a dime. Dad despised that woman." The words sliced through the air the second I crossed the doorway. They came from my sister Karen, no greeting, no glance up. It was both a warning and a verdict. I no longer belonged to that clan. I gripped my son Eli's hand. He squeezed my fingers hard, a small gesture but enough to keep me upright. Even without knowing the details, he sensed the hunt. We were in their sights. Karen sat at the head of the table, flawless in a gray suit, hair in a stiff bun, alarm red lipstick. Every detail said, "I'm in charge." Before I could react, I heard the laugh I dreaded most. Uncle Rick, Dad's older brother, leaned back, fingers laced behind his head like a man watching a game he'd already won. "Even the kid knows his mom's worthless," he muttered, tipping his chin toward Eli as if pointing out an auction lot. The lawyer cleared his throat, embarrassed, but no one gave him room. The long, glossy table, Grandpa's, now felt like a trench. On one side, them, ready to end the dispute with a single shot. On the other, me and my son, holding a narrow edge, but still standing. I drew a deep breath. If they wanted to cut me out, they'd have to hear my voice first. And to their surprise, I had plenty to say about wills, ignored memories and promises even death can't break. In the tense silence that followed, I realized the war started right then. And I didn't plan to lose. I kept my eyes on the floor while my heart cracked again. Around the table, cousins, old neighbors, and longtime acquaintances, people I hadn't seen in years, nodded in silent agreement. They'd already chosen their side, and it wasn't mine. I swallowed. My throat scraped. The air carried dust, worn leather, and Karen's too sweet perfume. My pulse pounded in my ears, loud, hot, humiliating. I pulled Eli to the last chair at the far end of the mahogany table, away from the pack. The seat creaked as I sat. He climbed up beside me, legs swinging, hands clenched in his lap like he was trying to disappear. Karen turned slowly. When our eyes met, she smiled, a hollow smile dripping poisonous pity. "You know this is pointless, right?" she asked, voice smooth, cold. "Dad rewrote the will and erased you completely. Said as far as he was concerned, you were dead." I didn't answer. My tongue felt like lead. I just nodded, pretending I understood, while inside the question throbbed, why did I come? Maybe there'd be a note, a line, some sign he still remembered me, something to make it worth it. Instead, I was here, surrounded by faces that had already decided my place, outside the family. I'd vowed never to return. Yet here I was, back in a room that smelled of stale cigars and resentment, the perfect stage for the showdown everyone expected. Relatives, scattered like pieces on a board, had me beaten before the game began. I was ready to leave before the first blow landed when the door creaked. Mr. Connor, Dad's lawyer, walked in unhurried, hugging a thick folder to his chest. The hush that fell said it all. The hour had come. I expected to walk out empty-handed. So did they. But no one counted on Eli. My son raised his arm, still half hidden behind me, and dropped a line that shot across the room like a stone through stained glass. "You forgot the video he recorded." In 2 seconds, every gaze swung to me, then to Connor, then back to me, hunting for culprits. But this story had started 8 years earlier. Back then, I ran off with 2-year-old Eli and a single suitcase. Far from arguments ending in slammed doors or long silences, I found a life that didn't hurt inside. The cost was cutting ties. No one called, no one tried to stop me. To them, I was a closed chapter. After Charles's funeral, I figured it would stay that way. But 3 days later, an envelope arrived. Date, time, address. No explanation. I thought of tearing it up, thought it was a mistake. Eli wouldn't let me. "You have to go, Mom," he said with grown-up conviction. And here we are. Eli, now 10, faces a family that never counted him as part of the game. Connor shuffles papers. Nobody breathes. Outside, a clock strikes the hour, proof there's no turning back. When the recording starts, everyone here will have to rewrite the script in their heads. I, who came certain I had nothing to lose, might find there's still something to gain, or to give back. The old projector bell clicks. Hook cast. Nobody blinks. I wore the same black dress I'd worn at my mother's funeral. Eli showed up at the door in the dress shirt he'd chosen himself. I stood, breathed deep, tight braids, hiding my shaking hands. He smiled. "You look beautiful." He had no clue I'd barely slept, dreading faces that had treated me like a ghost for almost 10 years. On the road, the silence weighed more than the seatbelt. I remembered the town's chorus. Karen stayed, took care of Dad. Julia vanished. No one asked why. They didn't know, or pretended not to, that Dad locked me out when I showed up with Eli and a suitcase after leaving a marriage that broke me inside. Or that Uncle Rick hammered in the verdict: family doesn't quit, blood is a promise, don't come back crying. Karen turned those lines into her perfect showpiece. I quit trying to prove anything. Far away, I built a quiet life for me and Eli. Small things, lots of laughter. Even so, I kept a thread of hope. Maybe in the end, Dad had retraced his steps, left a gesture, a word. That thread made me open the envelope and accept the invitation. Now, in a room lit too bright, surrounded by eyes that measure and label, I see how fragile that thread was. Eli sits straight, hands folded, scanning every face like he's hunting for a secret door. His calm unnerves me. He seems to know something's about to break loose. And for the first time since we arrived, I feel I'm not here just to hear their verdict, but to discover mine. Mr. Connor cleared his throat, lifted the brown folder, and nudged his glasses into place. I sank into my chair, muttering, "Stay strong. Don't show weakness." Eli, though, was anchored in something deeper than grief. Before the reading ended, he'd prove he was the only one who'd really listened to my father. Another careful throat clearing asked for quiet without demanding it. The lawyer opened the will like he was paging through his planner on any Tuesday. The opening lines flowed with legal jargon about assets and costs. I barely heard. My attention leapt ahead, sensing the blow. My name wouldn't appear, I was almost certain. Still, each time he turned a page, I held my breath, hoping for a surprise. Nothing changed. To my daughter Karen, I leave the main residence and everything in it. Karen didn't need to smile to declare victory. It drifted across the table like perfume. She traded a quick glance with Neil, and his nod already mapped out remodeling plans, and the folder still held more pages. Rick got the lake house and the last shares of the company. He settled back, arms crossed, cigar easing toward his lips like sealing the win. My uncle announced the next item in the will: to Paul, my nephew, the classic car collection. Paul, the same cousin who at 9 locked me out of my room just to laugh at my tears. I bit the inside of my cheek. I tried to keep my face neutral while the heat crept up to my eyes. Up to that point, not a single line about me, and then the sentence I dreaded. As already noted, my daughter Julia will receive nothing from this estate. Period. The room seemed to shrink. The air got heavy, like all the oxygen had been sucked out at once. I felt the hit in my chest. Under the table, Eli's fingers found mine. Only then did I realize my hands were clenched so tight they hurt. His touch kept me grounded, kept me from sinking right there. My heart pounded loud. Behind my eyes, in my temples, I could almost hear it. Around me, whispers rose, sharp and deliberate. Some eyes slid away, others lingered, curious to see how I'd react. I swallowed hard, lifted my chin, and took a deep breath. The story that would unfold from here, my story, was still unwritten. Karen barely curled her lips, a whispered, "Told you so," to Neil. Uncle Rick shook his head like the outcome was obvious. "Takes a special kind of person to walk out on their own father," he said, loud enough to sting. The rest, cousins, casual acquaintances, kept quiet. The silence, though, felt heavier than any insult. I took refuge in the wood grain of the table, lines twisting like mazes. Staring at them was easier than facing those faces. In my mind, one question kept looping. Why did I come? Why did I think he'd still remember me? Then Eli moved. He let go of my fingers and sat up straight. The air shifted before he even spoke. His voice cut clean across the room. "You're forgetting the video he left." Everything stopped. Karen blinked slowly. Rick twisted his neck. Mr. Connor stopped writing mid-page. I turned to Eli, confused. "What video?" I muttered. He kept his eyes on the lawyer's desk. Calmly, he unzipped his backpack and pulled out a white envelope, a little crumpled but firmly sealed. My name was on the front. Right below it, my father's handwriting. "For the lawyer, open only if things get ugly." I held my breath. I was still trying to figure out what was happening while Eli, my son, seemed to know everything already. The air in the room shifted. Suddenly, every eye locked onto the envelope he held so carefully, as if it were just another piece of paper. To me, it was a ticking bomb. On the front, my father's steady handwriting screamed in block letters, "For the lawyer, only if things get ugly." Things had gotten ugly. I swallowed hard and barely found my voice. "Eli, where did you get that?" He looked up, calm, steady. "Grandpa gave it to me. A while ago, told me to keep it." My heart took off. "He gave it to you?" "The day we visited him, just me and him. You were at work." I tried to pull up the memory. That afternoon, I'd let Eli go with the neighbor to drop off a gift for his grandpa. I thought it would be a quick visit. I never imagined they talked that long, let alone about something like this. The lawyer, Mr. Connor, stretched his hand across the table. "May I?" Eli handed over the envelope without hesitation. Everyone leaned in. Karen narrowed her eyes, trying to read the scene. Rick, who'd been slouched in his chair, sat upright. For the first time, no one said a word. Only the soft sound of paper opening and the silent question hanging over all of us. What did my father know that we don't yet? The snap of the envelope was brief, but it was enough to chill my stomach. Inside, a plain black flash drive, yet my pulse spiked like I'd yanked the pin on a grenade. Connor, the notary, also found a note in my father's steady hand. When he read it, his shoulders sagged almost imperceptibly. I noticed. He cleared his throat and spoke softly, as if carrying delicate news. "Ladies and gentlemen, there's a recording from Charles Thomas, made before the final version of the will. He ordered it shown only if there was a dispute." Connor's eyes jumped from Karen to Uncle Rick. Both shifted in their seats. Karen grumbled, "This makes no sense. He never mentioned any video." Rick leaned forward, tense. "No one can prove it's authentic." Connor raised a hand, cutting them off. "Date and time have been validated. The signature matches. I'm required by law and by his instructions to play it." He plugged the drive into his laptop. The screen lit up, black background, one lonely word, "play." The air thickened. No one dared speak or even blink. Blood hammered in my fingertips. I gripped the chair arms, trying to anchor myself when every part of me wanted to bolt. Why would my dad record a secret video? What bomb was he about to drop from beyond the grave? The answer would come the second Connor hit that key, and the whole room held its breath, bracing for impact. No one spoke. Eli kept his eyes on the screen, way too calm for someone who knew what was about to appear. Karen was going pale, lips pressed tight. Rick let the cigar droop between his fingers, forgotten. I wanted to run, scream, anything, but more than that, I wanted to know. Connor hit the space bar. The image vanished for half a second, flashed back. And there he was, my father, thinner, older, sitting at his desk, wearing the navy sweater I'd given him last birthday, the one I didn't even know he wore. Hands clasped, eyes not cold, just tired. He looked at the camera and started to speak. I held my breath. I didn't blink when the screen lit up again, or when his face appeared, or when I heard the first two words, "Hi, Julia." He looked different, skin thinner, once rigid posture now relaxed, but it was my dad, Charles Thomas, at the old oak desk and the worn globe from our childhood. This time, though, his expression wasn't hard or distant, it was human. "If you're watching this," he said, "I'm already gone. I imagine the reading hasn't been peaceful." Between his clasped hands, his fingers twitched in a small spasm, a nervous tic I inherited. "I never expected you and the family to be at peace. I know what they think of you. I know what I said myself." He takes a breath, drops his eyes, and lets the words fall, heavy. I was wrong. My chest tightens, my fingers dig into the arm of the chair. Eli's watching me, but I can't look away from the screen. I believed everything Karen told me, trusted Rick's side of it. I thought you left because you didn't care. I shut the door before I listened to your voice, yours and Eli's. Karen shifts beside me. I ignore her. Dad's throat catches, but he goes on. I mixed up pride with strength. I called betrayal what was really courage. You protected your son. You were brave. I wasn't. His eyes fill. Mine burn. I spent a day with Eli. He didn't say much, but when I asked about you, he said, "My mom is the safest place in the world." I clamp a hand over my mouth to hold back a sob. I lost you, Julia. I lost my daughter because I chose being right over loving her. I won't let my last act be pushing you away again. He straightens, looks into the camera. I changed my will. The air in the room seems to hold its breath. A chair creaks. Nothing pulls me from his voice. The house is yours and Eli's. The savings, the retirement fund. Everything for you two. I also opened a college fund for him. I know money won't fix what I broke, but I want you to find the peace I couldn't give while I was alive. The recording cuts out in an echoing silence. Even so, a door cracks open, and for the first time in years, I think about walking through it. He drew a deep breath, leaned in a bit more, and said, "If they get mad, let them. You deserve it. You went through all of it and never stopped being a mom. That's something I couldn't do myself." The words hit my chest. My breath faltered. I'm proud of you, Julia. I love you. I've always loved you. I just didn't know how to show it. The video was almost over when he murmured, "Take care of my grandson. Tell him thank you." The image vanished. No music, no fade out, just silence. Chairs creaked. Someone sniffled. But I stayed still, hand over my mouth, tears sliding slow. It felt like an old, invisible weight finally let go. No one spoke. Not Karen, not Rick, not the cousins, not the friends who'd always pretended not to see what I carried. Even Mr. Connor froze, finger on the mouse, like pausing the video had paused time. Maybe it had. I don't know how long I sat there. I only felt Eli's hand slide onto mine. He wasn't crying. He watched me with a half smile, like he'd been waiting for the truth to finally get its say. I leaned in and kissed the top of his head. My chest burned with a knot of love, relief, and grief, too big for any word. The room seemed to stop when Karen suddenly stood. The chair's scrape cut the air, and she left in silence, purse clutched to her chest. Her husband followed, face flushed, muttering words no one caught. Rick, meanwhile, stayed planted for a few seconds, jaw locked. He stood slowly, stared at Connor like looking for a way to argue, but Dad had spoken. There was no argument left. One by one, the others headed for the door. Some looked away, others tried small nods. In minutes, only the three of us remained. Connor closed the folder and cleared his throat. "We'll have a bit of paperwork," he said, almost gently, "but it's all settled." I nodded. No words came. He gave a quick, genuine smile and left. Then came the silence. Not the old, awkward silence I knew, but another one. Quiet, complete, like the pieces had finally clicked into place. I looked at Eli. He still held my hand, like nothing could knock me down. Maybe, to him, I really was unshakable. Truth is, he was the one who carried that envelope. Treated it like plain paper even though we knew it held something that could turn our lives upside down. We stayed a while longer. I can't say if it was to catch our breath or savor the first moment in years when I felt part of something. In my head, Dad's voice repeated, "I'm proud of you." 3 words I'd thought impossible, and I realized needed more than I knew. I'd carried years of silence, guilt, neglect, invisibility. All of it weighed on my shoulders when that recording started. But there, in the dim room, something shifted. I turned to Eli. "Thank you," I whispered. He frowned. "For what?" "For keeping what I'd lost. Courage." He just gave a small smile. "I wanted you to hear it. And I did. Not just in the video. I heard it in the air, lighter once everyone left. Truth is like that. It takes its time, but when it arrives, it rearranges everything. I walked out hand in hand with my son, carrying Dad's words in my heart. For the first time in a long while, I walked out whole. The silence that remained wasn't empty anymore, it was meaning. If this story touched you, if someone ever made your voice feel small, keep this. You're not invisible. Truth always finds a way. Hit like, share with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more real-life stories spoken without a filter. See you next time. Stay strong, be kind to people, and above all, remember, your voice matters.